So, I have been sharing the last few episodes about my own journey of having a second awakening. And I want to come and share with you today about what it means to have an awakening versus just being spiritually aware and conscious of things. And this can be hard to comprehend the difference between an actual awakening, a spiritual awakening, versus a spiritual awareness or having a spiritual insight or knowledge or gift. So, an awakening is not necessarily about your spiritual gifts. An awakening is not about what you do in this world or the role or the way that you share yourself with other people. An awakening is a moment of shift in your consciousness. Now, awakenings can take place differently for all different or every human, but the awakening is a moment in time in your reality where you know that you were believing and thinking a certain way and it suddenly shifted and you started to see a new perspective of yourself and the world around you. That is a spiritual awakening. Now, what takes place after a spiritual awakening is a consciousness awakening. And that is through the integration and the understanding of yourself. That's bringing in an awareness to your patterns, to behaviors, to thinking, an awareness to how you perceive yourself and the world. So you are going to be awakening the rest of your life, but the actual spiritual awakening is the catalyst, the beginning of the awakening. And if you have had a true spiritual awakening, you can look back through your life and you can probably point out a moment in time or a season or a time that sticks out to you where you had either a spiritual experience, a sudden awareness, or maybe you had a near death experience. So the awakening can come through any type of kind of a moment in your life where you realize that things may not be the way that you have been perceiving them to be up until that moment. For me, I had several experiences throughout my life that I would call moments of shift in like a consciousness way, but my real true awakening happened in 2016 when I was in my backyard mowing my yard and I heard an audible voice come and tell me that I was doing this life wrong. So when I realized that that moment I was doing it wrong according to what my guide said, I began to my perspective of myself and the world around me shifted within seconds. And that was my spiritual awakening. Now, I had other spiritual experiences before this. And if you followed me for a while or you know me, I have had the ability to communicate and see spirits since I was a child. I had spirits around me when I was a child. I healed myself with my own energy as a child. I was able to like sense and feel things. I had UFO experiences. I had always had like kind of spiritual things happening to me, but I wasn't necessarily awake when they were happening. There was something that I was observing in my reality that I was living, but the reality that I was living in was not an awakened reality. So when I had the shift of my true spiritual awakening in 2016, that's when I started to integrate into my human experience the spiritual aspects of who I am. And that included me having to go inward to discover my inner patterns, the way I think and the way I see myself and the world around me. That's a consciousness awareness that develops after an awakening. And anybody that's gone through a true spiritual awakening will start to have these things happening. So the world around you will start to look much different, and you're going to have experiences where you're going to notice things, feel things, and you're going to maybe even be in spaces that you've been in before, and you can feel the difference between what it felt like prior to your awakening versus after your awakening. And these can be really difficult because it's kind of an interesting thing to have an awakening and look at the world in the way that it then presents itself as you are awakened. It kind of challenges you in a way that you have to really discover who you are and how you show up in the world. So I meet with my Ascension membership actually 5 times a month now. We do a monthly call each month where we all get on. It's kind of like a awakening support group, and you are more than welcome to come join us. It's just a monthly membership where you join the membership and then you get access to our community support group gatherings and my weekly channelings where you can come and communicate with us, the wisdom keepers, as I channel. And you'll probably see me doing that here on YouTube or TikTok, wherever you follow me. But we were talking this morning about what was going on in the world and how people awaken. And the analogy that my spirit guides brought through, I thought was really good, and everybody on the call was able to relate with it. So I wanted to come and share that with you today. So what they told me was, if you're born, and this is going to sound weird until I'm able to work this out in your mind, but if you are born and placed into a pig pen with pigs, and you were taught that you were a pig, and you were rolling around in the mud with them, and you were eating whatever was being given to you, and you were just living your life as a normal pig. And then one day you had an awakening and you woke up and you started to look around you and you realized, I'm not a pig. And I don't have to live this way. I don't have to roll around in this mud. I don't have to stay in this cage. I don't have to eat what they tell me to eat. I am in control of me. But the thing is you were never taught how to live outside of the pig pen. You were never taught how to survive out of the pig pen. So you have to step out and start learning more about yourself and who you are to function in a new reality. That is kind of what a spiritual awakening is. It's that you were taught and programmed to be a certain way, to follow the crowd, to step in line, to allow people to tell you how to move forward. This is the way you be human. You go to school, you get a job, you show up like this, and without realizing it, you're living your life completely caged in a place that is defining your reality. When you have a spiritual awakening, you then shift into creating your reality instead of being an observer of the reality that was created for you, and you continuing to manifest in that reality, thinking that it is all there is. When you move into that awakened stage and you have to leave the pig pen, you have to begin to clear the mud and gunk off of you. And that is what the healing process is when you go through the conscious awakening and beginning to learn how to integrate your spiritual awakening. This is why there can be a difficult stages within your awakening where you have to learn how to manage and ground your gifts. You begin to learn about your own energy. You begin to learn about how you are the creator of your reality. You begin to learn about your triggers. You begin to look deeper into yourself and to see your limiting beliefs or the thoughts and ideas that you have about the world. You begin to see where you have lacked love, where you have struggled with judgment, where you have begin to feel insecure in certain areas, or you judge someone else and their insecurities, or you work through the ego instead of the spirit when making decisions. All this is a part of the continual process of consciousness awakening. And this is an ever evolving thing. This is not something that is a race. This is not a comparison. This is not anything to judge. Everybody's on a different level when they come into this. And there is no above, behind, further ahead, any of that within the conscious realm of humanity or the entire universe. So as we are continuing to awaken as a collective, as the human race continues to shift out of this sleep, I will just compare it to being in the pig pen and thinking that you belong there, and then stepping out and beginning to clean off all of the gunk that you allowed onto you unknowingly as a victim in many ways. To that, you start to step back into your authentic self, into the version of you that your spirit knew you were before you came in and were programmed to think and believe a certain way. So, there is a distinct difference between a spiritual awakening and moving into a conscious awareness where you are starting to ground this new awareness into your body, into your beliefs, and into your energy. And those who step out of the pig pen and begin to walk differently, that don't actually clean up the vibration or go deeper into the awareness of who they are, and they just start to work with spiritual gifts or start to focus on the law of attraction or start trying to manifest into a new reality, they eventually will end up back in the pig pen because they are not doing the inner work. They're just doing an outer work of trying to maintain the spiritual comprehension that they observed. And so that's why it's two different things to have a spiritual awareness and a spiritual awakening. The awakening will push you into a deeper healing. This spiritual awareness will keep you in your ego, and you will think that it's all about your spiritual gifts or doing tarot readings or communicating with spirits, whatever that might be. These things are not bad, but they can be done through the ego. And so as humanity continues to shift and to awaken into a higher consciousness, we are going to continue to have more discernment and being able to distinguish between those who are working out of the ego and those who are working out of a conscious, awakened reality and mind. And as we continue through the shift of awareness of what humanity is going through right now, one of the things that is going to be most important is that you pay attention to how your body is communicating to you in different circumstances. When your body begins to make you feel bad or you get a gut feeling that this is not good for me, it may not be necessarily that it's bad, but it might not be aligned for you in that moment. And it's okay to take a step back, because as you awaken, as you become more conscious of yourself and the world around you, one of the things that will and has to take place is you come back into your inner authority and you become the decision maker of yourself and the reality that you live in. And you no longer subscribe to the idea of what someone else thinks that you should be or do. So you might be starting to say no more often. You might be starting to not do things that maybe you once did that maybe felt okay to do at one point, but no longer do. And you have to have grace for that. And as humanity continues to do that overall, and as we continue to awaken, more and more and more of us are going to come into this inner truth, into this inner authority, and we will begin to create and manifest a new earth together. But in order to get there, we have to go through these little steps first, where we're having an awakening, we're moving through a conscious awareness, and then we're integrating that conscious awareness into our physical being, into our body, into our daily lives. So you can't have one without the other. You have to have a moment of awareness, then you begin to integrate the awareness into your system and you grow based on that. Now, not everybody's going to have a sudden crazy moment like I did. It could be something that shifts a little bit different for you, but you could probably look back through your life and point out a season or a moment or a time where that's when I began to awaken. That's when I had my awakening. And then from there, your desire to learn increased. And you'll probably go through waves of this. There might be seasons where you're like really diving into it and wanting to learn. And then you'll pull back a little bit and be like, wait, I want to be a human for a minute. And that's okay. But your spirit's always going to be pulling you back towards your higher self, towards growth, towards expansion, because in order to continue to shift into the fourth dimension, we have to continue to integrate. Now, there's a lot of spiritual teachers out there that are saying that we're moving into the fifth dimension right now. We are not moving into the fifth dimension at this point. We might get glimpses of what it might look like when we get there, but the fifth dimension requires a lot of shedding. The fifth dimension does not have ego within it. The fifth dimension does not have physical density the way that we have physical density. The body is going to become an actual light body by the time we move fully into the fifth dimension. And our awareness, our spiritual comprehension and understanding is going to be so enhanced. We're going to have communication on a daily basis with those across the veil and those who are also around us in the unseen world. It's going to be merging those realities a little bit more. We're just getting a taste of it right now because we are shifting into the fourth dimension. But to shift into the fourth dimension fully, you have to allow yourself to expand into the awareness of who you are and be able to hold that frequency long enough to maintain that kind of a comprehension. Because moving into the fourth dimension, having a second awakening like I have done, and being able to integrate that takes a lot of grounding and self-awareness and the ability to work through what your ego is going to want to try to prevent you from understanding, because the ego's job is to protect you and it does its job really well. So instead of judging the ego, you have to allow yourself to love yourself through these processes. Stay grounded, stay in community with those who are also awakened. If you need a community, please come join mine. I keep the price low. It's only $40 a month, and you get a ton of value with that. So come hang out with us. The link is below. I would love to have you. Just get on my website, angieharris.org, and go to my membership page. But this is all about integration. And as I continue to get more insights and awareness about New Earth, about where we are on Earth right now, ascension, awakening, I share it in the community with everybody. And I give examples such as what I am doing with you at this point about what it looks like from a human perspective and to how to integrate that into your physical limitations of a human mind and body. So come join us. I would love to have you, as well as I'm sure those who are in our community. It is full of love and light, but also reality. We talk about some hard things. We move together through some hard things. And I believe that those who come into this group are ready to receive this information. So until we meet again, I wish you the best day, night, evening, whatever time it is for you. I send you all the universal love. Namaste.